right across the street from Roller.
Right.
Yeah, and it was fun. You know, he always cracked up. He said the jukebox always sounded great until that train came up. And that train, remember, used to fly through there. Oh.
I remember riding that. That was real fun when I was a kid.
The old Detroit Maggot.
Well, I thought you were talking about the little train at Tony's Park.
Oh, gee, I remember that one too.
Okay.
Was that your mother who worked in the store?
No.
Oh, okay.
No,
The last time I went in there was
well, there were two.
an older woman, and
Yeah,
she wouldn't help at all.
No, well,
She wouldn't come down on them prices for you.
Exactly.
But she'd sell you a pool cue.
I remember 69 cents for 45. And I think the albums were $2.99 if I remember right when I first started selling them.
And your dad, I know Wayne, my friend Wayne Prisbilski, bought a lot of records that were taken out of the jukebox.
Yeah.
And I think he said your dad was selling for like 10 cents a piece,
Yeah.
or something like that. He bought a whole bunch of records.
Well, they played fine, you know.
Yeah.
The problem is when you pull them off the jukebox, you get the smoke from the bar in the jukebox. So there's a little white. The vinyl looks a little white.
Yeah.
So nothing wrong with it.
Wow.
You know.
So when you go to a 45 shop and you find some a little smoke, a little white on them, you know they've been in jukebox.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Was there a certain number of plays? You said, you know, they
It
recorded.
was like a meter every.
Yeah, was there like a certain amount of plays where you would replace the 45? You know, if it had played 50 times or whatever?
Yes, except for, you know, what the bar owner wanted, you know, on the jukebox. He wanted a certain record on it.
Oh, what I meant was you would put a new copy of that record on if it had been played, or?
No, it would stay there unless it started skipping.
Oh, okay.
You know, which some records did, but, you know.
Well, those 45s they're pretty durable.
You might not have known either how long they were in there because you got to make your rounds, right? And when you come back to make your round,
Yeah.
you weren't, unless you were called by the particular place, you probably would have not known how many times something was played.
Well, my dad went to Detroit, excuse me, every other Tuesday to buy records for the jukeboxes. So he would buy like 200-300
Where at?
copies of it. Oh, in Detroit, he went to Angot. He went to Martin and Snyder. He went to Capitol Records. He went to RCA.
They were all had a base in Detroit?
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
I did not know that.
So you said Martin and Snyder, was that like?
Martin and Snyder's in Dearborn.
And
That's where.
they're like a middleman? Or?
Yeah, they sell more to the jukebox operators.
Okay.
But they did have two labels that they recorded. One was the actual Dearborn records, which a lot of the polka bands recorded for. And then they had a label called MS, which, let's see, we had Stop by Lynette, now she's Lynette McKee, which Dennis Coffey played on, like Theodore. They had a few records of them. But over the years, they destroyed all their masters. Now there's nowhere to be found, unless you're lucky enough to have them.
Why would they destroy their masters?
That was not their primary
Oh, why?
business.
Yeah.
You know.
I think those would be pretty valuable right now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they are.
I was just hearing about a place, you know, they got rid of all their reel-to-reels because they had no space to store them. They're heavy, took up a ton of space, and they were just, in the late 70s, everybody was just kind of throwing them in the dustbin or giving them to whoever wanted them, and it went.
Yeah.
Did we hear that with our podcast the other day too from Bob? He was talking about that, somebody, or maybe it was somewhere else I was, but anyway, it's amazing to hear all the stuff that just went by the wayside, and it's so unfortunate because all these years later.
Yeah, even the reel-to-reel tapes over the years, they just fall apart. You know, unless you keep them in a cool spot, then they're fine. But technology. you know.
Yes, indeed. Everything's digital now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
How's it, Mike? Everything going good?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I
So is
remember-
there any labels in Detroit that your dad went to that was off the beaten path? Any good stories?
Not really, but you know, the distributors, the jukebox distributors, they they would feature like 15 different, like, you know, like Columbia, Epic, they all come from the same company.
Okay.
Did he ever have any contact with the Browns, Jack and Devorah Brown and Fortune Records, which is now kind of like a, you know, a
It's
very
as
highly
an
thought of-
institution by itself.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, it is.
I doubt. I can't say for sure, but I doubt it, you know, because Fortune stuck around till when, the mid-60s,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so.
but they were probably distributed by somebody else.
His son tried
yeah.
to sell it to us, as school kids,
Really?
and he wanted, this was back in the 90s, he wanted like over $1 million.
Ooh.
I mean, it sounds okay now,
Yeah.
but at the time,
Well, you have no
Yeah.
way of knowing, you know, how much interest
Right.
people have now in Fortune Records. You know, in the 90s, it probably didn't seem
who
real
knew a
likely.
book was gonna come out?
Yeah, well, exactly.
They put out a lot of records. too.
Yeah, they did.
A
Yeah.
lot of them.
Yeah, really, a lot of
They're all
incredible
very
stuff.
collectible.
Yes.
Mhm.
Who was your Capital guy?
Promotion man?
Yeah, I'm
Tom
trying to-
Tom Gilardi.
I knew it.
And Tom's still
Loved
around.
him. Yeah, he is.
Great guy. One of the-
He used to
one of
be
the
ours
best-
at
one of
School
the best
Kids
promotions,
Records. Yeah.
Yeah.
He told me stories about the Beatles and all that.
Yeah, he
Really
used to
interesting.
holler at Bob Dyer for getting a tape of an early Beatles song. He said, no. You better not play. That goes on Detroit radio first. He said,
Oh.
too late. You-
Yeah,
Tom
KNX
Gilardi.
was really the station that picked up on the Beatles really early.
Well,
And-
you know, back in the 60s, KNX was more of a, the British invasion.
Mhm.
SAM was more, you know, mainstream, the Motown, everything else. So,
I think Bob Dyer had a friend over in England. I think it was in Bo White's book.
Okay, because he
That-
played some songs that weren't on the Beatles albums. And so that's, you know, like in England, the Beatles put out an album, it had 14 songs on it.
Yeah.
In the United States, it might be 10 or 11. And so there were those extra songs that, you know, sometimes they would come out a year later on some other collection. But yeah, you know, KNX would play those songs. It was pretty fun to hear.
So tell us some of your favorite interviews you've done over the years. The ones that lasted in your memory of what I sure enjoyed.
I interviewed Sam the Sham. I don't know why that just popped into my mind.
Is that when he was in Bay City performing at not Daniel?
No, I think he was. I
Van
think
Canyon.
it was. He was at Chesaning,
Okay.
not that many years ago, probably back in the '80s, and he was doing a benefit show.
Okay, playing the oldies, playing his hits.
Mhm.
Yeah. So what about Sam the Sham stood out in your mind?
Down to earth guy,
Okay.
you know. I said, where's the outfit? You know, I remember seeing the Wooly Bully album.
Yeah,
you
he
know.
didn't have that,
No,
you know, the
no.
turban in.
No. No, he was loving it. I usually let the other guys on the air do the interview.
Oh, did
to be
you?
honest
Okay.
with you.
Did you have any that were kind of rough? Any good stories, any dirt that you'd like to tell us about? Some funny ones?
Well, there was a recording artist for Capitol Records who I threw out of my office. He
Bob
thought-
Seeger?
No. You'd recognize the name if I said it, but I don't want to get in any trouble.
You still
But
alive?
oh yeah, and he's still recording. He just thought he was hot stuff. He said, "You're gonna play that." I said, "If it's good enough, I'll play it." He says, "You're gonna play it." I said, "Oh really?" I said, "See you later. Here's the door. Don't let it hit you on the way out." I just had enough of that guy.
I assume we're not going to see anything on your page with that, or has there?
Probably not.
So we have to really comb those archives, figure this
I'll
out.
put it this way: he was, and I believe he's still on Capitol Records too. So
Oh.
you'd recognize the name.
Not
of the heartbeat.
MCART Carton?
No. Gee.
He's a hard rocker.
Okay.
But
Wonderful. We'll have to save that one for when the mics are off.
Ted Nugent.
Ted Nugent. I don't know if he was on Capitol.
No, he wasn't
Okay.
on Capitol.
This is
he's
great.
more 80s, 90s guy.
Okay. When the Eagles started. When a lot of the Eagles picked up.
Eagles started in 70.
Eagle. Is the Eagles. Not Eagle.
No, wait a minute. Now, I just had an argument with this on the Michigan Music page.
Oh,
Glenn Fry calls them Eagles.
oh,
Don Henley says we are the Eagles.
oh.
No.
And there are records press that says the Eagles.
No, Eagles.
So case closed on that.
Yeah. Well, I meant
It's-
ego person's
Oh,
ego.
Eagle.
Okay.
Jeez. Sorry, I'm old. My mind is going.
But that's all great. I actually followed your thread on that one.
Yeah.
I love that Glenn Fry thing. Actually, Glenn Fry had a song you had up for voting this year
The
too.
mushrooms?
Oh, no, this was
For
for
what?
a legendary Michigan song, You Belong to the City.
Great
Oh,
song.
That song,
love that song.
yeah, from Miami Vice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
love
it
that
was a
song.
great song.
Ego problems with
With the guy that was from Capitol Records. When
that was his main problem.
80s and 90s.
That was his main
You know
problem.
how everybody had that ego in the 80s and 90s? That
Yeah,
was-
Scott is, he's working to try to get that name right.
Well, let's just say his initials are BS and I'll leave it at that.
And it's not Bob Seger.
No, it's not Bob Seger, no.
Oh, so
But the problems we're facing now is that, at least on the Michigan Music History page, is that if I'll post a Ted Nugent song, or very seldom a Kid Rock song. But people have a hard time separating, the musician from the mouth.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And and people in the music business leave politics alone.